So are you never supposed to be hard on yourself? Like ever? What if you want to accomplish something greater than you've accomplished currently? That's the balance.
It's impossible to care about something and to not tie some of your worth to it. And I think that it's really impractical for people to say, oh, don't tie the untethered soul. It talks about like, don't tie your self-esteem to anything.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1258. Are there positive parts to your ego too? That was a very hyper-conscious episode. Today, for episode number 1259, Self-esteem, Constructive versus Destructive. Happy Sunday. I hope you are having a cup-filling weekend. And shout out to you if you're listening to us bright and early at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's when our episodes drop now. So you wanted to do this episode. I'm not even sure where you wanted to go, so I wanted to kick it to you immediately and just kind of follow your lead.
Okay, so whenever I jump on the phone with a client, I want to set them up for success in the long term. That's what I do. That's what I want to do. And the very first thing that I start to understand, the first part of the call is just an assessment. I'm just asking questions and kind of gathering data. And then there's always a point. There's always a point where I'm like, oh, boom, okay, I know what I want to work on. And a lot of times clients come in with their intention too, and then usually we take my intention, their intention, merge it. So anyways, one of the main things that I start with is I want to try to analyze and understand where this person's self-esteem set point is. And because self-esteem, I think, is the micro version of self-worth. So I'm trying to understand self-belief, self-worth, aka self-confidence and self-esteem. So self-esteem, I do this exercise with people. So I want to understand what is the biggest leverage point of their self-esteem. Everyone ties their self-esteem to different things. So I'll give an example. So for me, a lot of my self-esteem is tied to physique. So I get really down when I'm not in the gym, when I'm not consistent in fitness. And there's a lot of your past and your conditioning in this. So when I was in high school, I hit puberty really late. Everyone else got taller and bigger, and they gained muscles faster than I did. I was this little puny, freshman in high school. My sister was one of the most popular girls in high school. She was a senior when I was a freshman, and I was not athletic. I felt like a little boy when everyone else became a man, so to speak. And it bothered me. And so now I tie so much of my self-esteem, aka my self-worth, aka my self-value, to whether or not I am big and strong and athletic. So for me, the athletes got all the attention in high school, and I was the smart, nerdy kid who did well in school but didn't get any attention or any girls or anything like that. And so I think it comes from that. But the point that I want to make here is that everyone has a different thing. Everyone has a bunch of different things that they tie their self-esteem to. So Kev, for you, I've studied you for a long time. When Kev's not going to the gym, he has lower self-esteem. When Kev doesn't have a lot of money coming in, it takes his self-esteem and his self-worth down. If things aren't good with Taryn, his self-esteem is going to be down. So we all have self-esteem constructors, things that are constructive, that build our self-esteem, going to the gym, a vulnerable conversation with his wife, Taryn, revenue, sales, new clients, these things, they build your self-esteem. And then we all also have these things that are really destructive to our self-esteem. And usually they're the inverse correlation of the constructors. So for example, if being in great shape is a big self-esteem builder, one of the big destroyers of your self-esteem is going to be not going to the gym, skipping workouts, going to the beach when you don't look good, XYZ, okay? And so what I did with this client is I sat her down and I said, let's just do this simple exercise. I call it the 2 columns, self-esteem builders, self-esteem destroyers. And destroyer is kind of intense. So we'll do constructive versus destructive. So on the left column, do constructive. And then on the right column, do destructive. And then I simply break it down on Zoom and I do persons, places, things, and ideas. What is one person who they always build you up? Whenever you leave them, you always feel better about yourself. You always feel motivated, you feel empowered. Who's that person? Okay, think of that person. Okay, now there's this other person that seems on the surface like they really like you and like they're positive and like they're a good person, but for some reason, every time you see them, you just kind of feel like shit. After you're driving home and you're like, I don't know, like it's almost like you just feel like worse about yourself. You don't know why though. You don't know why. And think of that name. And usually that's a family member or, an in-law or a past partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, or some friend that's kind of a bully. Usually it's a bully of some kind. Usually bullies are, and what do bullies do? Bullies destroy your self-esteem, period. That's what bullies do. And so that's persons. Then you go next, places. Okay. And places can be digital, aka Instagram. Every time I get off Instagram, I just feel worse about myself. Right? Okay, so that's a destroyer of your self-esteem. You need to be aware of that. I had one client who was like, "Oh, I'll just delete it right now." And I was like, "Do it." He deleted it. And it's like, why? Because his business doesn't require it. And he's like, I might as well not. And he was so thankful that he did that. Okay, so persons, places. So digital would be Instagram. That's a good example. Geographical, that bar you keep going to. Or that friend's house. Every single time you go for football Sunday, you end up leaving kind of unfulfilled and feeling like crap about yourself. That restaurant you keep going to and you keep getting a burger and fries and you feel bad after it or whatever. And again, I love burgers and fries, so this is different for everybody. I think that actually builds my self-esteem. I'm joking. Okay. Persons, places, things, and ideas. Things is what's a good example of a thing? A thing you do. A thing you do that you always regret. A thing you do where you always kind of feel worse about yourself. Okay. Overreacting with your intimate partner. Every time I do that, it always hurts my self-esteem. Okay. And then builds your self-esteem, that thing you do. Every time I do mobility, I feel so good after. Until the next time before it, I'm like, I don't want to do it. And then every time you feel good after it. Okay. So that's a constructor. Yoga, going to the gym, mobility, reading a good book. The things that build your self-esteem, if you can focus on them. Okay. And then persons, places, things, and ideas. Ideas are interesting because ideas are beliefs. An idea is nothing different than an understanding or a belief. So this idea that everyone's out to get you, that's probably destructive rather. This idea that you can do anything you set your mind to. And again, be careful with that one because anything is probably delusional, but this idea that everything's figure outable or that you can figure it out or you can achieve your goal, like that idea is very constructive for your self-esteem. And so again, persons, places, things, and ideas, simple, 2 columns. If you can do just this and you were to actually focus your life on eliminating the destroyers of your self-esteem and then focusing more and more and more time and effort on the self-esteem builders, the constructors, you would be amazed at how empowered you'd feel. And here's the problem. This is the last piece. When you focus on self-esteem builders, there's going to be people who aren't used to you being that empowered who knock you down. And I've seen no exception to that. They don't necessarily mean to do it. Just think of a Debbie Downer who like kind of doesn't want to be alone. So they're a Debbie Downer and they kind of put you down because misery loves company. They're just pretty miserable. They're always complaining, blah, blah, blah. The point is when you're super empowered, you might get made fun of, you might get bullied, you might get lashed out at. Your relationships might have trouble with you being high self-esteem because what if a lot of your relationships have been attracted into your life based on low self-worth, based on low self-esteem? Now all of a sudden when you start building self-esteem and feeling good about yourself and feeling empowered and feeling confident, now all of a sudden these other people are triggered by that and they don't want to be alone and they're like, who's this new person? So just understand that when you start to build your self-esteem, you will have relationship growing pains. That's pretty much the last disclaimer that I would put on this.
Easy episode for the kid. Just kind of sit back and relax. That's what it feels like for you.
But yeah, well, sometimes I'd say that's true.
Hey guys, my name is Jacob Valdellon, and I just finished Next Level Group Coaching. When I joined, I wasn't sure what I was walking into. But during the entire course and the program, I figured out it's not something that I wanted to do, it's something I needed to do. They helped set me on the right path with learning how to do PPTs, peak performance tracking, and every 2 weeks I was gaining new awarenesses and getting a lot more happier, first of all, in my health, wealth, and love, but also winning more practically and tactically in business. So if you're looking to upgrade your life and get to that next level, definitely sign up for that group coaching.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Not really, no. No, I do. It's good.
What are your top three self-esteem builders?
The opposite of the three you said. Yeah, going to the gym is a big one. Money coming into the business is a big one. It just is. And then reflecting, not necessarily reflecting, but like looking at my relationship from overhead and saying it's really, really, really good right now.
Yeah.
But, and even to Alan's point, we had a conversation. I don't know if we said this yet. I don't know. Who knows? We had a conversation last week where I said, hey man, I need to change my schedule. I can't, these 9 a.m. calls, like I can't do them. I got to start doing 10s. I want to work 10 to 6. Not work. I want to be available for front facing 10 to 6. That's ideal for me because then I have a couple, 2 hours with Taryn before I start winding down for bed. And then I can be in bed by 9 and I can get up early and I can go to the gym and feel like I have enough time to get it done. Because for me, hitting snooze kills my self-esteem. Kills it. It's such a challenging way for me to wake up and start the day.
That's connected to the last episode.
What was the last one? Ego?
About the ego.
Yeah.
Remember you said that. Yeah.
I had that this morning. My alarm went off at 5 and it was like so dark and I was so comfortable. And I was like, I don't want to do this. But I got up and I'm very tired because it's just been a long day. But I feel really good about myself. Here's the thing too, and we won't go into this in this episode because I have a podcast breakthrough session here in a few minutes. But this is the interesting balance of when you're struggling, you should probably give yourself credit. When you're struggling, I don't know if you should attach your self-esteem to your self-performance or your overall performance. But there are times where I think it's important to say, like, again, this isn't for everybody, but I don't want to let myself off if I'm constantly hitting snooze. There's a fine line there, I think.
Well, this is standards. I know we don't have time necessarily to go into this, but I wanted to share this with everyone really quickly. A lot of people in the self-improvement industry, Kev, they talk about this, like, don't tie your self-esteem to your looks. And it's like, don't tie your self-esteem to your relationship. Okay, well, don't tie your self-esteem to your productivity. Don't tie your self-esteem to your career. Don't tie your self-esteem to money. Don't tie yourself... And it's like, what exactly are you supposed to tie it to? And this is a great philosophical conversation, Kev, because I actually believe one of the reasons why we all are, rich, dynamic, positive adults, for lack of better phrasing, is because we tie our self-esteem to doing positive things. I tie my self-esteem to virtue. I try to. I'm not, even that sounds super arrogant, but I try really hard to tie my self-esteem to virtue. AKA, am I in alignment with my greatest potential, my greatest level of contribution, and my highest level of quality of life? That's what I try to tie my self-esteem to. But there's a part of me that still ties it to whether or not I'm killing it in the gym, whether or not I look good in the mirror, whether or not, and I think that a lot of the self-improvement space in particular, I'll go quick about this, it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't tie your self-esteem to your physique. It's like, well, why not? At least a little bit.
What if you tie
at least the progress towards your progress? And again, but when you get older, you're going to have to let that evolve, as Kevin and I have had to, and we see some of these younger guys. But it's almost like this. And here's the thing, it's actually useful to tie your self-esteem at least a little bit to revenue or to money or to physique or to your relationship. Why? Because it gets you off your butt making progress. right? And I always joke about how everyone always works out and exercises before their wedding. That's like a very common thing. 3 months before my wedding, I'm going to start working out. And you see that time and time again. Why? Because they tie their self-esteem to how good the wedding goes. And I think that it's impossible to care about something and to not tie some of your worth to it. And I think that it's really impractical for people to say, oh, don't tie the untethered soul. It talks about like, don't tie your self-esteem to anything. And it's like, well, unless you're Buddha, like a Buddhist monk, like you're going to have to tie your self-esteem to something. Should you not tie your self-esteem to your work? Should you not? I mean, Kev, you and I, listens are up. We're feeling good. Listens aren't as great. We're not feeling as good. I think there's some value to like, okay, well, let's get our butt in gear. Let's do a better job. Let's find a new way to add value. And
I just think there's a difference between healing and accomplishing. Yeah. So that I think that's where it's like, if you're struggling to love yourself at all, it probably isn't good for you to look at your shortcomings, quote unquote.
100%.
But if you are crushing it, that's the thing. You can either change your perception or you can change your behavior. Mm-hmm. I think there are times where maybe changing your perception for a short period of time can serve you. I'm okay with that, but I don't think it's like that forever. I don't think it like, then what? So after you feel like you can handle whatever it is at a certain level, then it's like, okay, now can we inject a little bit of truth? But that's a challenging thing. I had somebody the other day, I did a podcast pre-call and she listened to the podcast. And it was a very good conversation. It was very interesting for me. And I don't remember her title. I don't know if she was a psychologist or therapist or counselor. And she said, I don't necessarily agree with the episode that you did on, I don't remember what one it was. I think we talked about standards a little bit. It was last week's episode. Beating yourself up. You're either too hard on yourself or too easy. Because she said there's a lot of people out there that ruminate over their performances. And I was like, I understand. Like, I can respect that. But I think there's a difference. So are you never supposed to be hard on yourself? Like, ever? What if you want to accomplish something greater than you've accomplished currently? That's the balance, right? There's a big difference between that. And so I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it does make it a challenge. It's very hard to blanket statement. We try not to blanket statement, but when it comes to things like this, it's a challenge to do it. All right, we do it. I know you got stuff, but I have to go. We got to go. We can do a part 2 on this if you want. You want me to write it down?
I would love to. I think what should you tie your self-esteem to? That kind of thing would be very, very powerful because I think that what you tie your self-esteem to can be transformed.
Okay.
And I think that can transform who you become. And
maybe next week we'll do it.
Okay.
All right. Next Level Nation, as you know, Next Level Live, April 1st, 2023, Worcester, Massachusetts. It's going to be a big old get-together, but you're going to learn and you're going to leave there with a new identity, at least a shift in your identity. You're going to feel more empowered. You're going to feel more confident. I'm sure your self-esteem is going to be higher because you're going to learn about how to get better results out of your life. And you get an opportunity to meet other like-minded people, which is always a great thing. Also, when's the meetup?
March 2nd, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 3 big things. Wait, 3 big reasons? 3 big things holding you back from success.
Yes. That's the meetup. We're going to go. Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1260. What we want to do the least is sometimes the most important. Kind of similar to what we just talked about. Didn't know that was going to happen. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.